Ọlọ́run kò dàbí ènìyàn, ènìyàn arónípin. Èèyàn ibà dàbí Ọlọ́run, wọ́n yà pé kójú máa rọ̀. Wọ́n ìbá ṣayé bó ṣe fẹ́, wọ́n ìbá dórí ayé kòtò, wọ́n ìbá sábẹ́fẹ́ gbowó, wọ́n ìbá pé kórùn máa rọ̀. Agbára ìbá fà wọ́n bí ọtí.
Doesn't see things done to children out there, and it's just appalling. We do hope that the federal government will use this day to on the way we take care of our children, who are supposed to be the future. We're supposed to be the leaders of tomorrow. We keep saying leaders of tomorrow, and we do expect that we give them a platform for them to actually be the leader they're supposed to be.
True. One of such issues was raised yesterday at the National Assembly Senate, while they were congratulating children. I don't know why I'm smiling talking about it. While they were congratulating children, for the Children's Day, of course, being their last plenary for the week, and they took the time to congratulate children on Children's Day. They raised issues around that too, looking at the welfare of children. But it's funny that they are raising it because Kogi State, stating that the Kogi State governor had registered twice.
Called us. We know that the immunity clause would prevent him from being sanctioned while he's still in office. I think the INEC chairman did put that clause there, that while he's still in office, he can't be prosecuted. But we do expect that maybe the governor should come out to, I think he owes his people an explanation. He should come out to explain why he will do something that constitutionally is wrong, and we expect that INEC also pay attention to all the irregularities that would come with voters registration, elections, electioneering process in Nigeria, and ensure that the trust, people are okay. Okay, maybe we are not actually trusting the system as it should, but people want to trust the system, and INEC should give us a reason to trust the system.
Okay, so register him. I don't know, because I asked given. I don't know the information he had. Maybe he had that he didn't have a card before. But there are two offenses here. The first one is the fact that you're registering twice, and the second one is the fact that you are registering away from the designated CVRs. Yeah. Now, the INEC officials should at least know that. Registering him in his office is illegal. So that's at least maybe that's the part I will dwell on. So for that, the INEC official, I think that's the part that the INEC official would be sanctioned for. They told him an effect.
Multiplicity of registration. Now it's the system did approve the registration of the governor. How many more citizens would do multiple
registration? Even though that he had a picture to prove that he had already registered. And that the Senate is already part of the Electoral Act, which was amended by the Senate. Senate has said you can now use, they've approved electronic voting, they've approved electronic registration. All of those things have been approved. It depends on INEC on how it wants to interpret electronic. And Senate said, even the House of Reps just also recently approved it. Now, Senate has said, and it's also in the Constitution, electronic becomes anything that helps expedite the process. So it depends on INEC to say this is how we want to interpret electronic, apply electronic voting in Nigeria. So hopefully INEC works, like you said, INEC works at that, so that really this issue of multiple registration, really if just because he's a governor, do you know how many people who have done that several times, and there's no picture to prove it. And moving away from that conversation now to something else. Nigerian foreign missions all over the world are 119. Foreign missions can be very expensive to maintain. And when Buhari took office, one of the things he said was that he was looking to shut down some foreign missions around the world. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Godfrey Oyema, came out recently to say Nigeria is, not recently, yesterday, that Nigeria is going to shut about 5 foreign missions in the world. That the President has not been briefed. The report has not been sent to the President. When it comes, the report will be sent to him. And it then depends on him to decide whether he wants to shut down these foreign missions or not. But the names of the foreign missions were not given. In what country they are in, embassies were not, name of the embassies and foreign missions were not given. But they're saying we're shutting down 5 foreign missions.
Well, of course, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs would have a valid reason for wanting to shut down the 5 foreign missions they've chosen. But we would expect that the reasons are actually valid, and it's not. And the foreign missions that will be affected are not the ones that will affect the nation economically, politically, or whatever it is. And
I would want to think that one of the reasons would be the fact that we don't have we don't have probably Nigerians living in that country. So sometimes you have foreign, sometimes you want to wonder, there are countries where there are no Nigerians. But you want to look at the fact that if you have just 5 registered Nigerians that you know in this country, because there might be Nigerians who probably live there legally and you don't know. But let's say you have who are living there legally, 5, 10. Is it economically viable? Does it make any sense for you to have a foreign mission there that you run
Obvious.
with millions of dollars, or maybe even say hundreds of thousands of dollars every year, yet it is not the turnout is not so much. People don't even come to Nigeria from that country as much. So if you have a country like I'm thinking of a country like maybe Malta, Cambodia, where you might not have a lot of Nigerians in those countries, and then you don't have Cambodians coming to Nigeria. I'm just saying, for example, if they don't have a lot of Cambodians coming to Nigeria as well, then there might be no need to be running a foreign mission embassy in that country. So if anybody then wants to go, you can then travel to the neighboring country, where the nearest country where we have a foreign mission, and then travel from there to Nigeria.
Well, of course, until the presidency gets the report and until we are briefed on the details of the reports, we wouldn't really be able to say which countries will be affected and reasons for the closure of of these foreign missions. But for me, I actually do expect that it's a step. It should be a step in the right direction, considering that this year we need to get. For me, we need to get out of recession more than ever before. The economic indices in the last few days is not encouraging at all. There've been indications that the country is still in recession and not likely to get out as soon as possible. So if it's costing us more maintaining foreign missions that are not actually necessary, the right thing to do is to call it off and move on in and try to.
It's not that. When people say call it off, because even when the Minister of Foreign Affairs was speaking, he said that it's very expensive to shut it down. It's actually very expensive to shut it down. You just don't say, okay, companies can just say, okay, everybody go home. Shut it down. For somebody who runs a salon or somebody who runs a barbing, or maybe a kiosk, can say, okay, you know what, I'm shutting down. You are still running at a loss anyway, even if you run a kiosk or a barbing salon. You can say, okay, everybody go home, I'm packing my things and I'm going home. But this is an embassy. It's a whole process. It's a whole process. The host country also has to be put in the know of all of this. So it's a whole long process. It's not like it's going to happen tomorrow. The president has not even seen the report. He has not assented to it yet. So we're still waiting for more reports on this, and then eventually, hopefully, we get to know the countries and the reason for Nigeria wanting to shut down. Of course, we might not be the United States, so it will be United States or United Kingdom. We'll know the countries very soon, and then the reasons for shutting it down.
Yes. Okay. But we still have more stories to tell you. We have more information to give. But again, we'll take a break and we'll return on AM Live.
Welcome back. You're still watching AM Live here on New Frontiers Television. We move on now to morning brief segment as we look at the headlines on the papers this morning. On the front page of The Guardian, as expected, the major headline here says Senate passes first segment of PIB, which is the Petroleum Industry Bill, unbundles NNPC. The writer says splits oil corporation into NPRC, NPAMC, and NPC. Host community issues yet to be addressed, and oil workers APC loud lawmakers. The details of that report begins on the front page of the Guardian newspaper and continues on page 6. Still on the front page, just above the nameplate, government bans repatriation of bodies to check Ebola, moves to sanction Kenya airline for breach. Also begins on the front page and continues on page 6. Now, on the Grandmaster's column by Dan Agbese, it says, no room for military adventurers. And that's on page 9 of the Guardian newspaper. On News 3, relief for Nigeria as OPEC extends oil output freeze. On News 3 also as well, Magu vows to wipe out corruption in 12 months. And on Metro 13, again, suspected militants kidnap 6 students in Ekpe. And there is an insert here of the former President Olusegun Obasanjo, acting President Yemi Osinbajo, ex-permanent Secretary, Ministry of Information, Alhaji Ahmed Joda, and President Ohaneze Ndigbo, Chief John Enya Onwumbudu, at a forum marking the 50th anniversary of Biafra at the Shehu Musa Yar'Adua Center in Abuja yesterday. And details of that is on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper. And that's all for the front page of the Guardian.
On the front page of the Punch newspaper, gunmen abduct 6 Lagos pupils 3 days after writing school. 2 of them broke down her doors and told us to lie down. They didn't use masks and one of them wore a police uniform. This is a response from a pupil that was interviewed. Details of the story is on pages 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper. Ambode sacks chaplain 24 hours after Sunday service. Priest, family thrown out of residence for disrespecting governor's wife. Details of those stories also on pages 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper. Democracy Day. Federal government declares Monday public holiday. NEC accuses Jonathan of sharing ecological fund to PDP states. Federal government using diversionary strategy for 2-year failure. This is a response from PDP. INEC accuses Kogi governor of double registration. Varsity invasion. Uni-Osun demands prosecution of Air Force men. On Ebola, federal government may sanction airline for repatriating corpses from Congo. At long last, Senate passes new petroleum governance bill. Sultan to announce moon sighting beginning of Ramadan. Obasanjo calls for the negotiation on Biafran agitation. And on the back page of the Punch newspaper, Buhari, a midterm report. This is on Friday musings with Ayo Olukotun. That's the much from the front and back pages of the Punch newspaper.
All right, now looking at more news on the Guardian newspaper. Osinbajo urges core members to be agents of positive change. Still on that report, federal government to release 40 billion naira ecological fund to 19 states, FCT. Moves to close down 5 foreign missions. Labour Party, CISLAC, disagree with APC governors over performance. Relief for Nigeria as OPEC extends oil output freeze. Still on the news, court orders DSS to charge or release Ifeanyi Ubah. Obi urges constitution review to boost national savings. Obi is the former governor of Anambra State, Peter Obi. Anambra leads in common entrance exam. JAMB denies arrest of 10,000 candidates. And still on the news, Guild of Medical Doctors holds confab tomorrow. Ex-envoy Bode George want Lasso named after Herbert Macaulay. And that's all for the news.
I'm moving on to the inside page of the Punch newspaper. Nothing can stop Nigeria's greatness, Osinbajo tell corpers. Nguta, court orders recovered money deposited in CBN. Military acquires 20 dogs to detect improvised explosive devices. And still on news, Lagos Federal High Court orders Ubah's release Abuja court extends its detention. We won't leave state highways, says Federal Road Safety Corporation. Federal Road Safety Corps. That's the much from the news column of the Punch newspaper.
Okay, before I take the metro section, just to look at this news here. Osinbajo remembers Biafra 50 years after, says Nigerians are greater together. Government declares Monday public holiday. OPS, which is the organized private sector, 6 he did the whole of power sector reforms regulatory framework, and then Senate removes domestic. Senate moves to domesticate Child Rights Act in 13 states. And then there is no strike in Lagos University Teaching Hospital, says Chief Medical Director. Why teaching hospitals have lower mortality rates than others. And moving on now to the metro section quickly. Again, suspected militants kidnapped 6 students in Ekpe. 2 soldiers arrested for sacking mobile court in Edo. And finally, disaster averted as tanker crashes on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway.
Moving on to the editorial column of the Punch newspaper. Way out of the minimum wage quagmire. And on letters, Ajimobi, Ibadan chieftaincy law and the imperatives of change. On Viewpoint, exploring oil in the north, fabulous or fabulist. Lamenting the death of a loved one. That's the much from editorial letters and Viewpoints of the Punch newspaper. Okay, looking at a special column here, which is called Ahead of May 29, The Making of a Nation, 2014 National Confab and Niger Delta Exit from Bondage. That's a special report for May 29. Looking now at the editorial, the police service Nigeria needs. So this is especially for the Nigerian police force. On letter column on engineering geology. And now moving on to opinion, why Gowon created states 50 years ago by Eric Teniola. In defense of a Nigerian poet, that's by Ikeogu. Okay, still on the opinion column, between Igbo nation and the agitations for Biafra, that's by Charles Ononaiju. And finally, Achebe, Ogunwusi, and Sanusi as growing national brands, and that's by Tunji Olaokba, and that's all for opinion. On business and economy, Senate passes Petroleum Governance Bill 14 years after APC Nupeng Pengasan AO passage. Still on business and economy, 5 power turbines, 4 plants shut. Kaduna Chinese firms sign pact for new refinery. OPEC orders extend oil output cuts. Nigeria exempted. Federal government inaugurates Solid Minerals Development Fund Board. The Nigerian incentive-based risk-sharing system for agricultural lending and USAID to boost agricultural output. That's the much from business and economy.
All right, now looking at the communications column here. Poor use of spectrum for IMT worries ATU. Still on IMT, just to give you IMT, there is the International Mobile Telecommunications, and ATU is the Africa Telecommunications Union. Networks to face difficulties on internet as IPv4 runs out. If you want to know what IPv4 is, you can find it on the pages of the Guardian newspaper. Medallion eyes 4 cities expansion, NSE. Main one says investments to drive data explosion in Africa. Google invests in Nigerian startups. Shitu urges cybersecurity stakeholders to prepare against attacks. Worldwide sales of smartphones grew 9% in the first quarter of 2017, says report. And finally, Xenox commends federal government for executive order on local content.
Okay, on industry, bill on ease of doing business ready. This is coming from the presidency. Ayat Kimia inaugurates diaper factory to create 30,000 jobs. On exports, the Nigerian Export Promotion Council trains custom in AGOA documentation. AGOA is African Growth and Opportunity Act. Substandard products fail integrity test. This is coming from the Standard Organization of Nigeria. Group opposes 2 billion naira CBN loan to Shonga firm. And finally, on industry, Firm host investment breakfast for women.
All right, now looking at the health news here on Guardian newspaper. How pot belly is red flag for cancer by WHO. Red chili pepper compound stops obesity, tumors, researchers find. So if you want to, now we're asking everyone to add red chili pepper to their food as often as possible to stop obesity, tumors, because researchers have said it does stop obesity and tumors. So if you want to find out more, it's on the pages, health news column of the Guardian newspaper. Premature babies are 17 times more likely to die from heart failure. Experimental vaccine protects monkeys from deadly malaria. New molecule may lead to first synthetic 1 dose of product. And now on gender politics. Improving women representation across board. That's by Chioma Dike. And that's all for that column.
On education, Abodering makes a case for quality education. Anambra pupils top national common entrance examination. Pupils return lost purse gets 2,000 naira reward. Air Force School gets first solar station. And finally on education, substitute school meal with milk. NSN, that's the Nutrition Society of Nigeria, tells government. That's the much on education.
All right, now looking at the sports column here on the Guardian newspaper. More money, more problems for Nigerian football. 2017 Access Bank UNICEF Charity Shield Polo. Latin Kings, Sao Paulo highlights benefits of worthy partnerships. Media, please deserve praise for success of Okpekwe race. Still on sports here. Eagles Corsica Togo friendlies on despite France's state of emergency. Angry NATO officials want Ebewele out of AFN board. And still on sports, now on Golf Weekly. Georgia Obo leaves for France as Jabra Ladies Open beckons. And then finally, Woods feels good, in no hurry to return. And that's all for sports.
On the Punch Sports, Amike Okon protests Ebewele election. View Center tragedy. Itagiwa Calabar residents celebrate Man United. Nobody at United. This is coming from Morio. Eagles won't underestimate Corsica. That is coming from a player of the Super Eagles, Echie Ejile. And still on sports, Sokoto awards 169 million naira contract for stadium. Kwara honors Yekini. Bafana coach banks on Warriors for Eagles. Corsica friendly, good for Nigeria. Klitschko is Joshua's next fight. And finally on sports, Aqua coach promises victory. That's the much for Punch Sports for today.
All right, that's the much for our morning brief segment. We'll take a break now to allow for the morning news. And after the morning news, AM Live will continue shortly. Do stay with us. very lovely morning to you. Thanks for joining us on Morning News here on New Frontiers Television. I am Precious Amai. We turn our focus now on Nigeria. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo has called on the federal government to negotiate with those agitating for the creation of a Biafran Republic out of the current setup in Nigeria. Obasanjo said this at an event tagged Memory and Nation Building, Biafra 50 years later, which held in Abuja. The event was held to commemorate 50 years of the declaration of an independent state of Biafra by the late Dim Chukwuemeka Ojukwu on May 30th, 1967. Obasanjo, as the commander, 3rd Marine Commando Division, was the military officer who accepted the surrender of the Biafran forces on January 12, 1970, after 3 years of war. Recalling his role in the northern civil war, Obasanjo said it was never the plan of the Nigerian government to exterminate the Igbo. Moving away from that story now, the National Economic Council at its monthly meeting has accused the former President Goodluck Jonathan of alleged discriminatory sharing of the Ecological Fund to states governed by the People's Democratic Party during his administration. It said friendly states benefited to the tune of 2 billion naira each, while states governed by the then main opposition parties were left out of the largesse. The council also queried the Accountant General of the Federation over some discrepancies noticed in the balance of the excess crude account. The NEC, chaired by the acting president Yemi Osinbajo, has all states governors and some ministers as members. Kaduna State Governor Nasiru El-Rufai told State House correspondents at the end of the meeting that he briefed the council in his capacity as the chairman of the 11-man committee asked to look into the management of the Ecological Fund. And now to electoral issues. The Independent National Electoral Commission has formally accused the governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, of registering for permanent voter card twice in violation of federal electoral law. The electoral body said Mr. Bello acted illegally to have registered for voters card in Abuja and Kogi, but said it could not take action against the governor because he is constitutionally protected from prosecution while in office. Mr. Bello's criminal behavior came to light when photographs showed him being registered for by INEC officials in his office in Lokoja, the state capital. He had earlier been registered in Abuja. The Electoral Commission, INEC, made its position on the scandal known on Thursday. It, however, denied authorizing any staff or citizen to re-register him or any citizen to do so outside the designated CVR centers. And now to the National Assembly and the oil sector. The Senate has passed the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill, which seeks to unbundle the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation and merge its subsidiaries into a single entity. The passage of the bill came 14 years after the original Petroleum Industry Bill was drafted and submitted to the National Assembly. The PIG bill, formerly known as the Petroleum Industry Bill, had suffered setbacks since 2003 when it was first sent to the National Assembly. This was part of the recommendations in the report by the Joint Committee of Petroleum, Upstream, Downstream and Gas on the PIGB, which was adopted by the Senate at the plenary. While presenting the report, the chairman of the committee, who is also the chairman of Joint Committee on Petroleum, Senator Tayo Alaso-Doura, said some subsidiaries of the NNPC had also been merged into an entity to be known as the Nigerian Petroleum Regulatory Commission. We'll take a break now, and when we return, we have more stories from Nigeria. Do stay with us. Back, you're still watching news on Morning News here on New Frontiers Television. Thanks for staying with us. The Federal Road Safety Corps, FRSC, has said its men and officers will remain on federal and state roads to carry out their operations. The Commander, Zone 8, FRSC, John Mahus, stated this in Ado-Ekiti while speaking with journalists at the first 2017 biannual RS8 zonal retreat with the theme, Rebuilding the Corporate Image of the Corps. The Lagos state government recently suggested that the FRSC should limit its operation to the highways. But responding to a question from journalist, Mahu said accidents did not know boundaries, adding that rescuing accident victims was part of the duties of the Corps. Mahu, however, commended motorists in the zone for cooperating with the FRSC on the use of speed limit device. Moving on now to the education sector, the federal government has released the result of the just concluded 2017 National Common Entrance Examination into federal unity schools. A statement made available to journalists on Thursday in Abuja said the Minister of Education, Adamu, gave approval to the National Examination Council, NECO, to release the results to the public. The results would be available in all the state's ministries of education nationwide as well as NECO zonal offices. A total of 80,421 candidates registered for the examination, but only 77,512 candidates sat for the examination. And still on the education sector, the management of the Osun State University, UniOsun, has called on the federal government and the Nigerian Air Force authorities to fish out the Air Force personnel who brutalized students and lecturers on Tuesday at its Ikpetu Ijesha campus. An official statement from the Office of the Registrar, Gafa Adebayo Shitu, on Thursday stated that a public commission of inquiry should be constituted to look into both the immediate and remote causes of the attack. The statement asserted that after critical assessment of the situation, it had been concluded that except a drastic action was taken following this recent attack, there will be another incident which might lead to loss of lives and property. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Air Force on Wednesday expressed regrets over the incident, saying it would bring to book any officer found culpable in the incident. And that's all for Morning News. Thanks for joining us. I am Precious Amayo.
Thank you.